Okay, so these notes are a little bit different. Let's see, today is the 25th of 2020. We are going to be given certain relationships, and we have to show that the lines are parallel, as opposed to be given the fact that the lines are parallel. So, it all has to do with this thing called a converse. A converse is a statement in which the hypothesis and the conclusion are switched. We're familiar with the corresponding angles postulate that says if two parallel lines are cut by a transversal, then the pairs of the corresponding angles are congruent. Notice that it is an if-then statement. If you flip those two things, so if, or the then becomes the if, and the if becomes the then. So if two are cut by a transversal so that any pair of corresponding angles are congruent, then we can conclude that the lines are parallel. So, first things first, what kind of angles are angles 1 and 5? I have upper left side of a intersection and upper left side. That means I have corresponding angles. I know they happen to be congruent if those lines are parallel. So the converse of the corresponding angles postulate, we just kind of talked about that. If two lines in a plane are cut by a transversal so that corresponding angles are congruent. So if I told you that angle 1 is 46 degrees and angle 5 is also 46, that's a bad example because those are obtuse. I said angle 1 is 100 degrees and angle 5 is 100 degrees. If those are congruent, then you can say that these two lines are parallel. So even if they're not marked parallel, if I have corresponding angles that are congruent, then you can know that they are parallel lines. Okay? Markings, because they are not congruent, they are 4 and 6 are not alternate interior angles. Let me check that out. Hang on just a second. Okay. I'm going to change that for a minute. I'm going to call this angles 4 and angle 5. So not 4 and 6, but 4 and 5. Those are our alternate interior. And if two lines are cut by a transversal so that you have alternate interior, I can't spell here, alternate interior angles are congruent, then the lines are parallel. So if I gave you a picture like this, and I said this was 60, nope, let's do this one as 60 degrees, and this one was 60 degrees. If those two are congruent, that's enough to say that these two lines then are parallel. Okay? And this one, I think those two just got backwards. So this would be angle 4 and angle 6. There's my 4 and my 6. Those are same side interior, or they can cut by a transversal so that same side interior angles are what? They're not congruent. See, this is acute and this is obtuse. They can't be congruent. They are supplementary. Then the lines are parallel. Okay? All right, let's turn it over. What kind of angles are 1 and 8? 1 and 8. Those two are alternate exterior angles. So the converse of the alternate exterior angles theorem says, let's use this diagram to need A to be parallel. Okay, so just froze there a little bit. I'm not sure where we stopped, but I have the measure of angle 2. They're giving me it as 5x minus 2, and the measure of angle 6. If these two lines are parallel, or I need to make them parallel, then I need to say that 2 and 6 are corresponding angles, and therefore they need to be congruent. So I'm going to set 5x minus 2 equal to 4x plus 11, so that I can say angle 2 is congruent to angle 6. So I'm going to subtract 4x. That gives me x minus 2 equals 11. add 2, and I get x equals 13. So if x equals 13, that makes angles 2 and 6 congruent. And if 2 and 6, which are corresponding angles, are congruent, then I can say that line A and line B are parallel. All right. Example 2, if angle 4 is x plus 50, and angle 6. What do I know about 4 and 6? Those ones are same side interior. So if I need to find x so that A and B are parallel, 4 and 6 together have to be supplementary. So x plus 50, which is my angle 4 measure, plus 3x minus 30, which is my angle 6 measure, have to be equal to 180. So let's see, on the same side of the equal sign, x plus 3x is 4x, and 50 minus 30 is 20, equals 180. I'm going to subtract 20, and 4x equals 160, divide by 4, and x equals 40. Okay. All right, let's look at example 3. Again, they give me angle 2, and this time they give me angle 7. How are 2 and 7 related? Those would be alternate exterior angles. Alternate exterior angles will be congruent if A and B are parallel. So, if I need to find x so that they're parallel, I need to set angle 2, which is 10x minus 8, equal to angle 7, which is 5x plus 27. 27. I'm going to subtract 5x. So that gives me 5x minus 8 equals 27. Now I'm going to add 8. I'm running out of room, so let's see. 5x, just coming up here, equals 27 plus 8 is 35. Divide by 5, and x equals 7. So if x is 7, then those two angles are congruent, making line A parallel to line B. All right, last one like that, angle 4 and angle 5. So let's look at how 4 and 5 are related. 4 and 5 are right here. Those are alternate exterior. What do we know about alternate exterior? They are, alternate interior. Alternate interior angles have to be congruent. So 22x plus 17, which is angle 4, has to be equal to 12x plus 37 so that we can find an x value that will make A and B parallel. So I'm going to subtract 12x. 22 minus 12 is 10x. Plus 17 equals 37. I'm going to subtract 17 from both sides, and that gives me 10x is equal to 20. Divide by 10, and x equals 2. Again, that means if x equals 2, angles 4 and 5 are congruent, making alternate interior angles congruent, and if alternate interior angles are congruent, you can conclude that lines A and B are parallel. Okay? All right, based on your understanding of angle pairs we have studied, do you think you can conclude lines are parallel if you are given a pair of vertical angles or a linear pair? Think about that for a minute. So if I say here's two lines, here's a transversal, and I'm trying to see are these two lines, we'll call them A and B again, if they are parallel, and all I tell you is this. That's a pair of vertical angles right there. Is that enough to determine that these two right here are parallel? Think about that for a minute and write down your answer. Linear pair, that's the other part of this. If I gave you two lines like that and you're transversal, and I said this was 60 degrees and this is 120 degrees, is that enough information to say that A is parallel to B? Think about that and write down your answer on your notes. Okay? Your homework worksheet is the 3.3a, Proving Lines parallel homework. Happy studying!